Alright, guys, I know we've been, or I've been focusing, and so many others, on dates, which are practically irrelevant at this point. Not entirely, there are clues certainly, but I've actually never made a video discussing my own personal interpretation of what all this means. If there is info from someone else, from another YouTuber, I will call them out and reference their name. Otherwise, most of the other things will be my personal take on what is taking place here. And so the beginning scene, this is in slow motion. We're looking at the aftermath. This is the end. It is not the beginning. So in the beginning, they're showing you the end result of the prior events that transpired. And the end result is one of small populations that remain as survivors, are kept essentially in what is nothing more than a labor camp. And he's wearing a collar, not just because this is a goat. He's wearing a collar to imply enslavement. So the survivors will remain enslaved in this labor camps. Quote, you have the guard dog to kind of emphasize that as well. The guard dog, I know others like JK Bugout have said that that is a representation of the star Sirius, and it very well could be, but I don't necessarily think that is the case. I literally think it is simply nothing more than a guard dog. So let's just skip right ahead to this scene right here. And so the reptilian race controls the world. This is actually a reptilian ET, a head reptilian ET, a master. He has a bleeding heart. He has a bleeding heart to symbolize sacrifice. Sacrifice that he's using puppets for. He's using puppets like George Bush as a host body to sacrifice other beings. So this is implying that he's hardly in control of his avatar body. So this upcoming scene is pretty self-explanatory. He's tap dancing. There are clues in Morse code as to what he is tap dancing to. That was deciphered many years ago, and it is implying a sort of acid rain, march on towards acid rain. So the light, the star, probably Sirius, is shining onto him, telling him that the next phase of the sequence of major events are on the horizon. You have snowflakes here, implying a winter element as well. This on top symbolizes insemination or fertilization. The hangman is the tarot card hangman. It's an old card. They're gonna pull a different card because that one is obsolete. So brain split in two. the dragon or the head reptilian is going to split the earth into two different trajectories. He's going to split the consciousness of man into two different trajectories. This is essentially implying that there's no middle ground anymore, that you're either on the side of the dragon or you're not. And I've heard others say that this is not evolution. I will disagree. I literally think this means evolution, implying spiritual evolution. And that would be two different trajectories of that evolution, one being a natural harmony and symbiosis with creation, and one being a technocratic evolution. So he's using a form of trickery here, kind of spinning his head, and this is for us because he's mocking the people researching and interpreting this data, because they're never going to find the real dates. And that is what he's implying by waving his fingers back and forth. That, is it January? Is it December? Is it November? What year is it? Well, only we know. We'll give you subtle clues, but they're very subtle indeed. Then he morphs to Obama. And this is his kind of demonic face. Also is a representation that he is a puppet. So this is an idea from J.K. Bugout. He's a graduate, implying that he's a graduate of the presidency, and he's also a graduate in the spiritual realm, because the tassel is purple violet color, which implies him being a very highly evolved spiritual being, whether that's on the dark side or light side. And he's laughing in your face. He's laughing both at the researchers and in the general public itself. So Lily, in my opinion, is Eve, and she's this is going back to the moment, the fruit of good and evil. She is witnessing all of the events, all of the horror, abuse, nightmares that have transpired over the millennia, and she changes her mind and decides that it's best not to eat the fruit, but it is simply too late. And she is sitting in a circle, which could be a myriad of different things. I know that someone mentioned that people in Biden's rallies actually sat inside circles, which I thought was very interesting to note. This is certainly a calendar back here. I think we all know about that. But it's multiple years. So I'm starting to think that it's ranging from 2017 to 2024, but the main events will transpire within the whichever year it is. It has to be from December to January, starting in November, as I discussed in a previous video. We have the November figure holding a baby and water breaking. See, you have the broken water here. And in December, having a crater, implying that there will be an asteroid strike or something of that nature. And there are also subtle clues to December behind. If you take a look over here, you see D, W, so you can interpret that as December 23rd, or you can interpret that as 423, depending on how you look at it. But this may be implying after December 23rd, the rabbit is looking in this direction, which, thanks to Theology Ed, he noticed that. I've never even noticed that he's looking towards December. Very great job on that. And implying, you have to exit by this time frame. So she's come to the realization that biting the fruit was not worth it. So she drops the apple. And she drops the apple and it rolls to Obama's feet. And this is not a date necessarily, but it is a moon phase, I believe. And it kind of resembles a very makeshift, subtle sundial with this protrusion, which many in the YouTube community have interpreted as being the number 7. But I think it is a similar protrusion that you would see in a sundial right here. And the shadow cast here, you have different times here. And the way the sundial works is that depending on where the shadow is cast by the protrusion, you will know what time of day it is. So all of this is implying, so you see kind of there's like a subtle shadow being cast here, and this is also representative of the sun, and this could be a moon phase, which kind of resembles, something like this. Perhaps this. By the way, before I go on, I'll probably have to make this in 2 or 3 parts, so in case it cuts out, because my phone does not store a lot of data. So the apple opens with the lily being a symbol of regeneration and rebirth, essentially implying a reset, the reset coming after this event. Now, I know JK Bugout mentioned that there's a subtle implication here with, it's very hard to see, but there is an X, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the number 15 in Roman numerals. What that 15 what, I don't know, but in addition to that, it's also very hard to see, but there's either a fish head right here, or you can interpret that as a shark. So Pisces, possibly, in the afternoon in Pisces, on a 15th, something like that. It's really hard to know for sure, guys, because people have been trying to decode this for years. So why is he nervous? He's nervous because he's taking on a tremendous burden. Regardless of, yes, of course he will be playing the role of the dark side, right? But you think that the dark side does not have a burden? The heaviness of that burden must be so profound and so heavy that it is almost difficult to comprehend. So there is an element there you have to take into consideration. If he is playing the role of a dark pharaoh, it will not be easy, guys. So this sudden event is both allegorical and literal. This sudden catastrophic event, first, allegorically, you have the US split in 2, which is currently happening at this very moment. I don't think anyone can argue that we have not split in 2. So, secondly, after the allegorical splitting, you have a physical event. It will be a sudden freeze that will literally split the country in two. Now, what could that be? Well, that is really hard to say, guys. You could be looking at a myriad of things. So let's go back a bit to Psalm 23. So this is the lightning falling from heaven as I walk through the valley of shadow of death. So if it's the lightning falling from heaven, then that would of course imply a meteor strike. And as I discussed in prior videos, the meteor strike will cascade into a chain reaction of catastrophic events, earthquakes, tsunamis, block out the sun. Look at how dark and murky the sky is. The sun is blocked out because of all this ash and snow, and it's causing a dark winter. A dark winter. It's causing a day after tomorrow type of an effect that will cause a short-term snowball Earth effect, at least, maybe not in the entire world, but at least in North America or USA where this is implied. So, really quickly, and then I'll start part two, is that there is a subtle reference to a moon phase right over here. You see that? I know that Theology Ed channel, Theology EG, one word, said that this is implying a lunar eclipse, but I don't see that. I see this simply as an interpretation of a moon phase like we've shown earlier. So let's, for example, say, I'm not saying it's this month, it's not, but if it is, it would imply like something like the 17th or 18th. That's kind of what it resembled, didn't it? So let's keep going for just a couple more minutes, maybe. All right. So now we have and so this event, this catastrophe, snow and ice event causes other nations that are enemies of us to take advantage of the situation, and they will take advantage of the situation during some kind of a lunar eclipse. Now, this could be any time frame from now till when I believe the last possible time frame is April 2024, but the next closest lunar eclipse that we have is November 30th. It will be a penumbral eclipse, and it will be seen in much of the world. But I certainly don't think that it's that one. But you never know. So they will take advantage of the situation, which is extremely unfortunate if that is the case. Basically using us like that, you know. And look at the dark, murky sky. No sun, endless rain. You know, the energy is out. The oil is meaningless now because nothing is functioning. That's how I interpret this. So you have the king reptile looking at the egg. Now the egg is most likely this so-called Antichrist figure that we see in the end, right? The red-headed Jesus. So if he is the one that's in the egg, the king reptile is essentially observing how his progress is, basically. And by the way, I mentioned a long time ago that this is a black mamba snake. If you look at the head, which is shown multiple times, it is clearly a black mamba, and we know what happened this year on January 26th. So, but the egg also could be a multitude of other things. It could be a form of consciousness that is ready to crack and come out. It could be a mixed hybrid race. It could be anew. It is a multitude of possibilities here. It's really hard to say because honestly, no one really knows. All right, let's keep going later.